Hello. Today we're going to make a slow cooker pulled pork. I have a 10-pound pork shoulder here. Depending on the size, if you have one that's smaller, just half the recipe. If you have one that's bigger, just incrementally bring that amount up. So we've got our pork shoulder, which I've trimmed. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of salt. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of chili powder. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of cumin. We've got 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I don't happen to have any ground cinnamon at the moment, so I'm using cinnamon sticks. So this is one of the ways that you can adjust your recipes as you go. It'll work just the same. I've got about 10 garlic cloves, which I'm going to slice up a bit, and I've got a large onion that I've sliced, and I've got 2 cups of water. I'm going to first combine all of my seasonings, and we're going to put that onto the pork shoulder itself. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get our seasonings together. Because I'm not using ground cinnamon, I'm just going to put the cinnamon sticks in whole. So I'm just going to reserve those off to the side. But if you had the cinnamon, you would put that into the mix here as well. So I'm going to put my 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. We're going to have 2 teaspoons of cumin. And, you know, it's okay if you put a little bit more. It's just going to add some flavor. All right, so there's our cumin. So we're going to get our chili powder. All right, and we said 2 tablespoons of chili powder, so let's move this measure off here. So that's a lot, but that's a lot of meat that we have to season. So I'm going to make these heaping. Chili powder. And salt. I know it might seem like it's a lot, but remember, it's a lot of meat that we're going to be using. So we're going to put 2 tablespoons of salt. 1 and 2. I'm just going to use my spoon, mix all of that up together. And we've patted our pork shoulder so that it's dry. It's not wet. And we're going to just put this as like a dry rub on top. All right, so let's get our pork shoulder. And the way that I do this, I have it already in a tray so that I don't have to pick it up too much and touch it. And once I put it in, I'm going to take the top part, flip it over and put it down, and then I'm going to finish seasoning the other side. So that way I'm not trying to do it all outside of the slow cooker, and I end up losing seasoning. So that's one of my tips. So basically half of the mixture I've taken out, and then because I'm going to use the spoon, again, I'm not worried about it touching the meat. So I'm just going to use that you can use your hands. It's good to touch your food. You get a feel, literally and figuratively, for the way that everything is connected. So that's a good thing. So I'm not putting it all the way to the edge at the moment, simply because I don't want it to fall off, because it will. But I'm pressing down with my spoon, my measuring spoon, so that it sticks. And you'll start seeing the sugar look wet as I push it in here. And we leave that on. See, slowly I'm getting to the edge. And because this is all going to cook for about 8 hours, I'm not worried about, having missed a spot or 2, because it's going to be immersed in this seasoning in the pot for so long. Okay? So before I can put the meat into the slow cooker, I'm going to take my onions. They're going to go in first. I sliced the onions, and I'm just going to put them in there. We'll move them around in just a moment when we get our garlic in there. I'm going to take the garlic. I'm just going to cut it into hunks so that we have more surface area. You can slice it thinly if you'd like. I found that as long as it's not just whole garlic cloves, it's fine. So I'm just cutting it up into pieces. And that's going to go right on top of the onions themselves. And remember, I said I have cinnamon sticks, so I'm going to put those in as well here on the bottom. And that's going to be just a little layer for the whole thing to sit on. All right, so let's do that. Just got a couple more to go. And you want to make sure you have it on a flat side so you don't end up hurting yourself. So the first cut that I make makes it flat, and then I flip it. Okay, so we'll take all of our garlic, put that in. Take our cinnamon sticks and put that in. So we've got everything that we need into the crock pot, as you can see here. Okay, so we've got everybody in there. I'm just going to move the onions around so that they're in a little bit of a layer. And now we have to actually pick up the pork. And like I said, I'm putting the seasoned side down. You want to make sure that your pot will fit your pork. Okay. And, you know, there's just a little bit of seasoning on here, so I'm just going to use that up. Don't want any of that to go to waste. And as I said, I'm going to put the rest of the seasoning here on top, not having lost any to speak of in moving things around. So I'm just going to use my hand at this point because I used it to pick up the pork, just to get it in all those spots and on the side. So you can see how much work this is. It's not a lot. Just get some of that seasoning off my hands. And at this point, I am actually ready to go ahead and pour in my water. You can use chicken stock. Just rinsing my hand off a little here so we can move this. All right, so when I put the water in, I'm not putting it directly on top. I'm going to put it on the side. And that's 2 cups of water. And now we're going to put it on low for 8 hours. So let me get that up. Just going to rinse my other hand off. I have seasoning on it. Okay, so let's get that in here. Now we're going to turn this on and set it to low for 8 hours. Cover that up. All right, our 8 hours are up. So we're going to turn this off when we press the button. And let's see how this turned out. So you can see there's a part that doesn't go under the liquid, so it may look a bit dry, but look at that. I'm just peeling that off. It literally falls apart. So what I'm going to do now is just take as much as I can with my tongs, which will be most of it. You can see how easy that is, and put it in my container. And the reason I do that is because it's falling apart, and if I try to pick it up, there's a good chance it might splash back into the liquid. And I want to get everything out. I'm going to put it here to stay warm in this Tupperware container. And in doing so, I'm going to be able to then get all of the liquid out, and I'll be able to strain that and then add it, some of it back into the meat to keep the meat moist. Now, you can use barbecue sauce, which I do. I'm not going to do that today because I actually just don't want anything other than this liquid, because it's the fragrance right now alone is telling me just how good it is. So I'm going to keep pulling the meat off and putting it into my container, and then we'll go ahead and strain this. All right, so you can see we used a fat separator. You could see the layer of fat here at the top. I'm going to be able to pour, and it'll just take the stuff from the bottom. But before I do that, I'm going to take the solids, which is all of our onion and our garlic and any little bits of meat that may have come out, and put that in here. And then what you want to do is, first we'll move this off to the side. What you want to do, or at least what I do, I actually pour some of the liquid in here now. And then you can see, just by using, I'm hardly even putting any pressure, the meat just shreds itself. You can take 2 forks and use them to pull the meat apart. But you can see when you've cooked it enough, all you have to do is kind of just move it around and it starts to fall apart. So if you would like to use barbecue sauce, now would be the time to add that in as you break it up, just so that you can get a good idea of how much to put in at any given time. If you like it really, really saucy, you'll know to keep adding. And this may end up looking dry if you don't, but you have to put some kind of liquid in here. There's a lot of flavor from the outside, but in order for this to really come together, the best way is to add some of this liquid, which is the cooking liquid itself. And yes, there's a little bit of fat on there, but fat is flavor, so we don't mind that. So I'm just going to add some of that. And if you don't have a fat separator, it's a great investment. It makes life really easy. One of the things I do is I'll take this once it's cooled. Right now it's too hot, and if I were to take it and put it in the fridge, it could, even though this is tempered glass, shock this enough that it might break. So I'll wait till this is cool, put it in the fridge. This will solidify, and all I have to do is pull it out, and then you have everything you need for your next batch. Because what I will do is save the rest of this. I don't put all of it in. Do you see that, how liquidy it is down here? This is kind of going to get all soaked up. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time. I'm going to mix this up, as you can see, so that all the parts from the top and the bottom get mixed in evenly, because some of the parts from the top, as you can see, they have a lot of that seasoning on it. So I want to kind of mix that in to the whole thing. So just keep mixing this up, or if you'd like to use 2 forks to separate it out, you can do that as well. I serve this as is. I put it on a plate. I serve it in a mound right beside coleslaw. And I make fresh coleslaw at home. You can get store-bought coleslaw, whatever you like. And they go really, really well together. If you have some roasted potatoes or roasted sweet potatoes, this goes along nicely as well. You can also put it on your nachos, which is something I do right around day 3. Some of this, because it is a lot, I will put it in the freezer, I'll freeze it, and then I'll take it out in portioned options, and I'll use it as I've just described. So if you have time and a slow cooker, 8 hours, and you can have something That's delicious.